The season hasn't even started. Pac-12 Media Day hasn't even gotten here yet. But we're looking ahead at what's really important this season for USC.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Culkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you're watching me on YouTube or wherever you download your podcast, we are free. I appreciate your support. Thank you so very much. You can show your appreciation, and it means a lot to the show. If you're watching on YouTube, become a subscriber. Hit that red subscribe button. It's easy. It's free. And hit that thumbs up. It means a lot, and I don't want you to miss an episode, especially as we approach the season. Hit that bell notification button 5 times a week. All right, as you can see on today's rundown, right off the bat, it's playoffs or bust for USC in 2023. And, for one thing, recruiting on the defensive side of the ball is going to have a direct correlation with how well the team performs in 2023. We've been talking about it during the whole entire offseason. I'm not going to change course now. And just to kind of, belabor that point, USC fans, we heard that Mike Matthews, the wide receiver out of Liburn, Georgia, was going to be making his commitment this week. I told you he was going to be picking Tennessee. He did. I also told you on yesterday's episode about USC's drought in the winning the conference championship in the Pac-12. Well, you everyday listeners and viewers will also remember when I said on yesterday's show, quote, this is me, quote, the number one pick by the conference media has won the Pac-12 championship 6 times in 12 years. Utah, back-to-back conference champion. Before that, Oregon, they won it 2 times in a row. And then I also mentioned on yesterday's show, can you believe it? USC has not been the media's preseason pick since 2017 when USC beat Stanford for the conference championship. So that's what we focused on yesterday's episode. Well, it's sad and it's true, but here's another sobering fact. Trojan football has gone 5 seasons without a bowl win, and that ties them for the 3rd longest drought in the conference. Oh, it ties them with Utah, by the way. And only UCLA and Arizona have gone longer without winning a bowl game. So you see, Trojan fans, USC really never actually hit rock bottom. UCLA actually has a little bit more stench tied to their program. So it would be an understatement to say that USC in 2023, they have to win something this year as a team. And it has to be something of significance. Considering that this is Caleb's, what I think everyone assumes is Caleb's last season playing college football. Because while winning 11 games and a Heisman Trophy and barely missing the playoffs in year 1, that was good enough. Winning a conference championship game and a New Year's 6 bowl game, that should be the bare minimum for the team in 2023. I know this team is already thinking it's playoffs or bust. That is their goal. That's their focus. And I mean, really, that should be the goal when you come to play football at USC. Whether or not that's realistic, besides the point. That should be the bar. Well, we're 2 days ahead of Pac-12 Media Day, 1 day, depending on when you're watching this episode. And it looks like Athlon Sports agrees with me because They released their 2023 bowl game predictions for the Pac-12 conference. And they also actually have 6 teams from the conference earning a spot in their top 25 going into the season. So a little bit of respect from Athlon Sports. But it's also funny and ironic at the same time, because Athlon, they talk about how having the strength atop the conference is good news for a potential college football playoff berth. However, the Pac-12 could also beat up on its own too much and have a 2 or 3 loss champion again in 2023. Here's my rebuttal. Why doesn't that same logic ever apply to the SEC or the big conference? I'm going to tell you why. Because perception. And that's why USC is bouncing from the Pac-12 as quickly as they are. So Athlon, they released its first preseason bowl projections, and they actually believe that the Pac-12 is poised to end a 6-year drought. USC is going to reach the playoffs. They're picking USC to play Georgia in one of the semifinal games. And they also feel with USC that Washington, Utah, and Oregon are all capable of finishing within the top 10 at the end of the year. So the Pac-12 theoretically could get at least, they could get at least 2 teams into a New Year's 6 bowl game scenario. And last year, 7 teams from the Pac-12 went bowling. This is where Pac-12 teams, this is where Athlon thinks the Pac-12 will spend their postseason this year. First, I'm going to go over the rules real quickly. In the order of the selection, the college football playoff, the Rose or the Sugar semifinal. If a team from the Pac-12 is in the top 4, they automatically qualify for the college football playoff. Number 2, the New Year's 6 bowls, Cotton, Fiesta, and Peach for 2023 and 24. The Rose Bowl is the normal home for the Pac-12 champion that does not qualify for the playoffs. However, with the Rose Bowl being a semifinal spot this year, a Pac-12 champion that does not qualify for the playoff or an eligible at-large team will be selected into the Cotton, Fiesta, or the Peach Bowl. Per Pac-12 bowl rules, the Alamo Bowl will get the first pick of the remaining eligible teams. The Alamo, Las Vegas, and Holiday Bowls do not have to make selections in order of the final conference standings. However, they must choose amongst teams with the best finish with 1 loss of each other. In other words, a team with a 7-2 record in the Pac-12 cannot be selected behind a program that went 5-4 in conference play. So in order, number 3 is the Alamo, number 4, Las Vegas, number 5 is the Holiday. I already went over the playoff and the New Year's Day 6 bowl games. The Sun and the LA Bowls must take the remaining teams in order of best record from the conference records. So they choose next in this order. Number 6 is the Sun Bowl. Number 7 is the LA Bowl. Number 8, the Independence Bowl. So that's the rules and how things are selected. Here's how Athlon sees things shaking out. College football playoff, they're going to put USC versus Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. Now, here's my commentary. If this projection comes true, I'm going to hold my commentary here for a second. This will be the first time since 2016 that Pac-12 gets a rep in the playoffs. Washington was the last team. That means, because they're projecting Washington to go to the Fiesta Bowl to play Tulane, they have USC beating Washington twice this season, the second time being the conference championship game. Now, Washington versus Tulane, interesting. Yeah, I'm just not seeing Tulane hitting the New Year's Day back-to-back seasons. Next up, they've got Utah playing Texas in the Cotton Bowl. Interesting. Yeah, I don't see that happening. I just don't see 3 Pac-12 teams playing USC in the playoffs and then 2 more on New Year's Day. Just don't see it happening. So these next few predictions from Athlon, they actually kind of hit the funny bone for me. They slapped that button really hard. They're projecting UCLA versus Oklahoma in the Alamo Bowl. That would be amazing. Just fan bases. Trojan fans, who would you root for? In the Las Vegas Bowl, here's a funny one. Oregon versus Iowa. So Athlon doesn't see Oregon having a very good year. And I would love Oregon and Iowa fans getting together. Made for each other. Holiday Bowl, they got Oregon State playing Notre Dame. That would be an interesting matchup. Sun Bowl, Washington State versus Duke. And then the LA Bowl, they've got Arizona versus Boise State, which means Stanford, Cal, and Colorado are missing the field. And that leaves the Independence Bowl without a Pac-12 representative. Not enough bowl eligible teams from the conference. Go look at that. So this is setting up perfectly for Athlon thinks USC's playing Georgia. I love it. And it's setting up, I'm going to write the script. USC gets to play the role of spoiler. They're going to prevent Georgia from winning the national championship for a third year in a row. USC accomplished that. I mean, wouldn't that be the perfect Hollywood script if they weren't on strike? Kind of, reflect back on when Texas got away with that win against USC in the Rose Bowl. Yeah, they got away with the win. Vince Young's knee was down. Anyways, so not only the irony of USC getting some, kind of late revenge almost 20 years later, but Lincoln Riley and Alex Grinch, they could exorcise their past demons from the last time they went up against Georgia in the playoffs. Look, I guess all that's really left, if I get some creative license writing the script, is how we get that game somehow moved to Pasadena and played in the Rose Bowl. Because then things would really shape up. And you could not write a better script. Hey, LinkedIn Jobs is back. And these days, every new potential hire feels like a high-stakes wager for your small business. This is a high-stakes season for USC. And you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. And that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs is going to help you find the right people for your team faster, and they do it for free. And as easy as it is to use LinkedIn to find a job, it's also just as easy to create a free job for you as a business owner to post on LinkedIn Jobs. Once you add your job listing, you then add your job with the purple #hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile, and then you're going to spread the word that you're hiring. LinkedIn provides simple tools like screening questions, and that makes it really easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experiences so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview as well as hire. Recruiting the right person for your job means it's a better product. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus the leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Okay, so Pac-12 Media Day, we're just a day away now. And I'm going to tread lightly on this take of mine, this opinion, because, again, it just seems like a coincidence. And I am talking about someone's health when I get into the meat of this here in just a second. However, if Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff, if he was looking for someone to kind of steal some of the spotlight away from him and draw, some of that negative attention away from the fact that there's still no TV rights deal in place. Well, that's not going to happen because another storyline that's going to be talked about on Friday at Pac-12 Media Day is the combination of Colorado always being the subject of one of those first teams that might consider bolting for the Big 12 conference if things don't look promising as far as TV revenue. The Colorado school chancellor said in the Denver Post just days ahead of Media Day, in fact, I think he said this on Wednesday, quote, CU's goal is to stay within the Pac-12 and have a media deal coming up shortly. That's our goal. And I believe the presidents and chancellors of the Pac-10, Freudian slip, of the Pac-12 are together on that, end quote. So again, I hope everyone keyed in on the keywords there. Their goal. Look, personally, I have some goals too. But that doesn't mean they're realistic and that they're going to happen. So I'm just saying, we all set really high goals. Doesn't mean we can always strive and reach them. So I'm not sure that's exactly what George Kliavkoff was looking to hear. But the commissioner also lost an ally that maybe could have taken some of the heat off of him at Pac-12 Media Day when Coach Primetime Deion Sanders pulled out. So this is where I'm going to tread lightly. Took me a while to get there, but now you understand. Brian Howell, who is one of the Colorado Buffalo beat writers, tweeted out Wednesday afternoon, breaking. Colorado head coach Deion Sanders will not attend Pac-12 Media Day on Friday in Las Vegas because he is having surgery on Thursday. Defensive coordinator Charles Kelly will go in his place. Now, so everyone's aware, the reason for this why Coach Sanders is having the surgery is he has a blood clot in his right leg, and he's also having some work done on his left foot to straighten out some toes. So first, for me, Godspeed. I wish him nothing but a speedy recovery. However, I'm pretty sure this day on the calendar has been circled for at least a few weeks, maybe longer. And it's not like the Colorado medical staff facilities, they can't rearrange their schedule to maybe do this like the day after Pac-12 Media Day. In other words, I'm asking the question, would one more day make a difference? Was this a life or death scenario for Coach Deion? I don't know. No, I just stay at Holiday Inns on occasion. But the reason I'm treading lightly and just kind of saying I think this is kind of coincidental. Coach Prime isn't known for having much of a filter when he's trying to communicate. Or, sometimes he's just brutally honest. So I'm just wondering if maybe Colorado doesn't want Coach Prime Time getting into the discussion about Colorado possibly jumping ship, bolting to the Big 12. I mean, I'm just taking into consideration his Coach Primetime's internet feud, his words that he's been beefing with Oklahoma head coach Brent Venables with. If anybody hasn't been aware, apparently those two have been comparing their victim list card about who inherited a worst situation. And again, you have the CU Chancellor, Phil Stefano, saying this publicly. I'm eagerly awaiting to hear what the commissioner has to say Thursday. This is what Di Stefano told the Denver Post in a phone interview Wednesday afternoon. But at this point, the 10 Pac-12 schools are staying together and awaiting a message from the commissioner, end quote. So how do you think that question or that statement's going to get dissected on Friday at Pac-12 Media Day. It's not exactly a strong vote of support. At least that's my interpretation. As a reminder for a little history, the Buffaloes left the Big 12 for the Pac-12. Back then it was the Pac-10 in 2010. And they began playing football the following season, 2011. The financial returns for Colorado, they haven't been what everyone kind of anticipated. There were promises made. And again, Larry Scott was in charge at the time. He left the Pac-12 in 2021. So according to the USA Today, Steve Berkowitz, the Pac-12 in 2022, their fiscal year paid out the lowest per school media rights distribution of any Power 5 conference, at a reported $37 million per program. The Big Ten topped the list at $58.8 million, followed by the SEC, $49.9, the Big 12, $42, somewhere between $42 and $44.9 million, and then the ACC, $37.9 and $41.3 million. When asked if there was a target payout that Colorado would like to see from the Pac-12, DeStefano replied, quote, "You'd like to see it at, I think we've talked about and have been looking at what the ACC and the Big 12 have received and what the SEC and the Big 10 are getting, and wanting to be kind of in the middle of the pack. Probably to be third behind the SEC. That's been the goal for such a long time," end quote. Well, USC, they don't want to settle for third anymore. That's good enough for the Oregons of the world. That's why USC is out of here, heading off to the big conference. Same with UCLA. So, again, I wish Coach Deion a safe surgery, quick recovery. I can't wait to see him on the sidelines with his team, getting his team prepared. But again, just kind of coincidental. Just days before Pac-12 Media Day, someone who likes to talk won't be available for a program that's going to be asked about this. Just saying. All right, I got a question, and this really doesn't apply to Locked on USC or myself, but it's more of a here's a scenario that's out there. Paying players for interviews. You see it on the rundown here. Should Locked on USC have to pay for 20 minutes of interview time? The reason I'm bringing this up is I have an associate with the Locked On Network who's been emailing back and forth with a representative from a large agency who represents a lot of players. And apparently they want to use some of their players to do some NIL deals for content. And apparently there's some of these rates, they tend to come out on the high side, but he's come back several times with rates that are lower than what they were first pitched. So essentially what it sounds like is the rates are negotiable. Now, so according to one source, here's the range of pricing. Below are the player rates for a 20-minute interview should you want it. Now, I'm not going to give the menu prices for each of the players. I'm just going to let you know that the pricing range on the low end is $100 for 20 minutes, and it goes all the way up to $350 for 20 minutes of time. Here's just some of the players that are on the list. Let's see. From Alabama, you've got wide receiver Jermaine Burton, and you've got defensive back Malachi Moore. Notre Dame, they've got an offensive lineman, Blake Fisher. Here's a few players from Ohio State. A defensive back, Denzel Burke. Defensive end, Jack Sawyer. Defensive lineman, Michael Hall Jr. Excuse me. Let's see. Here's a familiar name for USC fans. Ole Miss, Michael Trigg. Michael Trigg Jr., tight end. You want 20 minutes of his time? It's going to cost you. USC's got a couple of players on the list. Didn't think I was going to pass that up, did you? Caleb Bullock, Damani Jackson. And then, there's just a handful of names. There's a list of them. I just wanted to go over some names that maybe USC fans might recognize. So again, I'm not sure that Locked On USC fans need to really worry about this. Remember, I'm credentialed. I have access to players before, after practice, after games. I could put in special requests through the sports information department. That's what we do. The media submits names for interviews, and then we just hope that the players don't have any personal timing conflicts that keep them from talking to us when we put those requests in. So what I do find interesting though is that if any of these players weren't available for an interview, I'll bet you they find the time when money's involved. That's NIL, baby. It's here. It's part of college football. I just thought that might be something of interest that we can talk about for the third segment of the show. We're almost to fall camp. There'll be a lot more to talk about. So until our next episode, which will come at you tomorrow, everyone, you know what to do.